Kia ora, Mr Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to this Local Government Auckland Council Amendment Bill number 2. I'm not a member of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee, but I am a proud and staunch member of the Manurewa community, and obviously I want to take the opportunity to congratulate all those who have been elected on to various boards, whether they be the local board or DHBs or Wiri Licensing Trusts or other governance boards that empower them to represent their communities. Essentially, we're here because there is a transitional piece of legislation which enables local boards to delegate responsibilities to certain members, and without this piece of legislation going through, the irony is, well, I don't know if it's an irony, but the reality is those people who currently have delegations will keep them. And it means that local boards can't do the work that they need to do, and in some instances, those people are no longer on local boards. And so the person that I've been working with that I want to highlight in my area has been local board member Colleen Brown, who didn't stand at the last election for the local board. And I do want to congratulate particularly Simeon Brown, who as a previous member of our Manurewa Youth Council has made the transition as a young person representing the youth specifically to now being a member of the Manurewa local board. But the irony of that is that Colleen has had delegations around developing the local alcohol policies for Manurewa. She's no longer on the board, so it makes it very difficult, I guess, for them to delegate somebody else. Maybe, but what I do know is that local boards are actually performing a very important role in our communities. And so I'm really standing here in this third reading to support this piece of legislation because, from my perspective, local democracy is really important. And so when I look at my local board and the connection and relationship they have to the people of Manurewa, it's really important that they have all the tools that they need to do the best job on behalf of the people in each of our respective communities. And so for them to be able to have those tools means that they don't have to have full board meetings, which essentially would have to take place if this piece of legislation didn't go through the House tonight. And it is timely, given we had the elections on Saturday, for us to have prioritised this piece of legislation. So obviously for me, it's really important that that we conclude this debate tonight and that we support this piece of legislation. What I really wanted to highlight in my contribution tonight is a concern I have about voter turnout. And it's been very interesting, I guess, to look at some of the different local body turnouts, but I know in Manurewa it's probably going to be as low as 25%. I think that's really concerning, but it's interesting to look at research from an Associate Professor, Christine Shane, who works at Massey University, who's basically said that New Zealanders are able to identify with the District Council or the Mayor, but beyond that there's really gaps in people's understanding about the people who represent them, either on local boards or other such constituent groups. And so there's an overall poor understanding of the role and nature of local government, and if people don't understand the significance to their lives, then they're not going to vote. And so I think we have a particular challenge in some communities, but the other challenge I want to highlight is the complexity for some communities in the voting process. You have two types of processes that you use currently in local body. Obviously, for the local board, you just tick however many members of the local board are in your area. So in our area, we had to pick 8 people, so you tick 8 boxes. But for the DHB selections, if we want to use that as a comparison, you actually have, it's a preferential voting system, and so you have to rank members. And I think for some of our communities, it's really confusing. And so I do think we have to rethink how we present these democratic opportunities to our communities, and maybe the boards where we want to tick the number of people we want on there, whether they be the local board or the licensing trusts. They should be on a separate form, and possibly the DHB form should be. I am talking to the bill, and maybe the DHB form should be on its own, and we should enable our communities to have different mediums to be able to engage in the process. So the bill, obviously, we support. It is a piece of legislation that has unanimous support across the House. We realise that it's a piece of legislation that needs to go through so that our local boards can do the job that they're empowered to do. And so, Mr Speaker, I commend the bill to the House. Thank you.
I call Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I just wish to make 2 points on this legislation. The first is that this legislation is necessary to allow local boards to continue the work as they have for the past 3 years.